Hello, my name is Greg Hogan of the Environmental Health and Safety Department here at Oklahoma State University. I'd like to welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about slips, trips, and falls in the workplace. Some of the objectives we're going to be covering today is basically two requirements as far as OSHA is concerned on walking and working surfaces that apply basically to your work area. Identify common causes of slips, trips, and falls within the workplace. Evaluate the workplace hazards associated with walking and working surfaces. And the other thing too is going to generate ideas on how to control and identify these hazards. The slip, trips, and falls account for about 27% of the 888,220 non-fatal work-related injuries, resulting in days away from work in 2019, according to the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control. More than 6.8 million people are treated in the emergency rooms for fall-related injuries in 2020. The other thing too is a fall can lead basically to death or even permanent injury just in a split second. Slips, trips, and falls can also occur in virtually every type of workplace. Doesn't really matter what kind of work area you're in. There's always some type of slip, trip, or a fall to kind of contend with. The next part we're going to talk about is how to respond. This is basically things that people do or don't do. We're going to start on the very far left of the screen there in front of you, talk about the reactive side of this slips, trips, and falls. Responding to an accident when the injury does occur. Okay? In other words, you wait till what? It's already occurred, and then of course you will try to do something about it. Trying to put out fires. Once again, take corrective actions after an incident has occurred. Place blame on an incident after the incident has occurred. And the other thing too is fixing symptoms. Really doesn't take care of the problem. That's where you get into the proactive portion as far as slips, trips, and fall within the work environment. One of the things you want to keep in mind is identify hazards before they can cause an incident. Go back in your work area, look around, see if there's anything that you need to correct. The other thing too is as far as taking corrective actions before an incident does occur. In other words, you pre-plan ahead of time before we actually have to go through, have an injury or slip, trip, or fall within your work environment. And the other thing too is when being proactive is find the root cause of the incident. Why did that particular accident occur? Most importantly is how are you going to go about fixing the problem. So those are just the reactive and proactive. Hopefully everybody's on the proactive side when it comes to slip, trips, and falls within the work area. These are the most common type of slip, trips, and fall hazards. One of the ones at the very beginning talks about obstruction or debris in your path of travel. In other words, something directly in front of you as you're walking. Spills is another good example. Water, surfaces, things like that. Uneven surfaces is another good example of common hazards. The poor lighting, unanchored rugs, weather conditions, unsafe floor products. These are all contributing factors to the most common slip, trips, and fall hazards within your work environment. NIOSH has actually come up with the top 10 hazards as far as slips, trips, and falls is concerned. Contaminants on the floor. Once again, keep things cleaned up. The indoor and outdoor walking surface as far as irregularities is concerned. The snow, the ice, weather conditions. Those are other hazards that they have listed. Poor lighting or inadequate lighting in the work area. And of course, the other one every building has a lot of these is what they call stairs. And also make sure a person's using handrails. The stairs and the handrails work together to actually provide a safe means for an employee to go up and down a flight of stairs. The step stools or ladders, these are all other contributing factors. Tripping hazards, once again, the looseness, the cords, clutter, things sitting on the floor, things are in your walkway areas. The other thing too is using the improper type of floor mats within the work environment. And the other thing too is poor drainage. Go back and look in the department you work in or the building you work in. Where does the water run off? Hopefully it doesn't run off directly into an open area as far as the main entrance, for an example. Hopefully it goes down into a drain of some type. The most common type of injury as far as slips, trips, and falls are concerned, basically affects from the head to the bottom of the feet, but most common injuries include the strains or the sprains, bruises, contusions, fractures, abrasions, cuts, and of course the body parts that are affected includes the knees, the ankle, the wrist, the back, the shoulder, the hip, and the head. In other words, when a person either slips, trips, or falls, and they have an impact to the surface itself, that's normally where a part of the body is going to be affected. Not only that, but it's very common to see the basic injuries that we did cover, where it's a strain, sprain, bruise, or something of that particular nature. If you look at the chart directly there in front of you, 54% of those involve human factors. That's one of the leading causes as far as slip, trips, or falls within the work environment. 25% of those involve some type of wet or slippery surface, and the other 16% involve some type of housekeeping issues. Those are the top three that entail as far as the slip, trips, or fall incidents are concerned. We've given you some examples of things to kind of look at here, different types of pictures. And one of the things that we really want to kind of stress is things that you have on the floor, for an example. Maybe some type of salt, sugar, things like that you may find back in a food court area. The other thing, too, is, once again, some type of grease or even oil, or maybe the floor has been freshly mopped. It does create a slippery surface. High gloss finishes, particularly a lot of wax and build up on the floor itself, can also cause slipping type issues. And of course, the other one that y'all see up there on the screen involves sand. Who would ever think sand would be a slip hazard? But that's probably one of the leading ones that you'll find is sand, particularly if it involves any type of brick pavers. Because the brick pavers, a lot of times they go in there and they'll actually take the paver and they'll put sand in between, as far as like the securing it directly in place. And over a period of time, that sand actually lifts up and gets on top of the walking surface. And that's when it does become a slippery type of an environment. Other type of floor contaminants. Look at this. Once again, we're talking about our wet floor signs. Any type of rain, any type of inclement weather, make sure that you are putting up your wet floor signs at the main entrances of the buildings, or also at the main entrances of your restroom facilities is another good example. Another thing too is put some type of high visibility color within the, as far as the caution is concerned, something bright yellow, has some bright colors associated with it. In other words, it's going to get a person's attention. And that's essentially what you're trying to do. Say, hey, you're about to step on some type of slippery flooring or surface, so please use caution before you step in this particular location. You also get indoor walking surfaces as far as irregularities are concerned. Once again, you'll notice different types of flooring materials. We got one picture up there that does have the diamond plated material. We've got one where it actually shows concrete that's starting to degrade or get to the point where it's not actually holding in place. And of course, the other one that y'all see on the very far right of the screen up there is actually some type of deviation within the floor surface itself. It can cause a roll hazard. Once again, a person could roll their ankle in that very easy, or it could become a trip hazard for that particular individual. Outdoor surfaces, take the time to kind of look at that, because a lot of people like to get out, walk around in different locations, see different things, and once again, your walking surfaces are going to change from point A to point B. The picture on the very far left that you see directly on your screen there gives you all different types of surfaces. It gives you concrete. It also gives you some asphalt type of materials or pavement materials. You also get bricks in that particular picture as well. You can kind of see the cracks or the fissures directly into the surface itself. If you look at the top right-hand corner of the picture up there, there's a classic example right there of a sidewalk that once again is not completely level. That little ledge may not seem like much, but it's just enough for a person to trip forward. And once again, it isn't an outdoor type of facility or an area where people do walk or congregate in that particular location. You go to the next picture at the very bottom right of the screen up there. There's a classic example right there. The curbing was marked. That means caution. But the problem is, if you look at that picture real carefully, is you've got rocks, you've got leaves, all that stuff starting to kind of migrate or go out of that particular secured area. So once again, this does create slip, trips, or fall hazards in those locations. Prevention solutions. Once again, we do have a change as far as elevation is concerned, also surface conditions are concerned. You notice that it's a sidewalk up there on the very left picture. It does have the yellow type of material, but also if you notice that from when you step on the yellow material up there, you also step directly onto bricks. So once again, we got three different types of surfaces that a person is actually standing on in a short period of time. The other way, of course, is that they've actually done in the picture on the very far right up there, They've actually went in, they did do a black asphalt type surface. One of the things that they did add was the bright yellow caution parking lights. Not only that, they also put in a bright yellow parking stop. So when your car pulls up, you know that's where you need to stop at. But not only that, if you look directly behind that, you actually see a bright cement sidewalk. So once again, they're just kind of breaking up or transitioning the colors so it's more identifiable. Hey, there is a trip hazard, or yes, you're about to step down off this particular sidewalk. Those are prevention solutions that do work very well. You got the weather. Once again, on weather, it can change very drastically in a short period of time. We've got wetness on the very far left picture up there with some fall leaves. The very far right, you get ice, you get snowy type of conditions. Doesn't really matter what kind of weather conditions that you have. Remember this, always slow down, turn your feet out just a little bit, and take small steps if you do have to walk on that type of surface. Or better than that, instead of walking on the sidewalk, maybe you want to walk through the grassed area in order to get to a safer location. But not only that, but the grass actually has a little bit of gripability to it, as opposed to a solid surface like a sidewalk would have. Inadequate lighting. This is one of the ones that a lot of people don't think too much about, but here's the deal with inadequate lighting you've got to be careful with. Number one is it does create false insecurity because it does create shadows. When shadows are created, you really don't know how deep that particular hole may be, or that particular step-off point may be. And the other thing, too, is you're unable to see. So good adequate lighting is very crucial as far as prevention of a slip, trip, or fall within your workplace. We give you some examples right here of some stairs. If you notice on the very far left of the screen up there, there's some examples of stairs. They do have the little diamond-plated material on them, which basically creates some type of gripability material. But then here's what it comes down to is poor housekeeping. In other words, they're not keeping the steps clean. It does have handrails, which is a plus side to it. But if you look at the one in the very middle, the middle picture, and the one on the very far right, you can actually see where those steps actually are marked as far as where the transition is from one step up to the next step. It's very identifiable. That way it doesn't look like it just basically all runs together. So they've actually broke it up, come up with different colors, but once again, it's something that's for what? Prevention of and identify there is a next step that you have to go up, and they do want the employees to recognize those transitions. Here's an example right here of tripping hazards in the work area. Keep things picked up off the floor. Very, very classic example of things we put in this particular presentation. Covering up cords. You got to be careful of that because once again, it may eliminate maybe part of that trip hazard, but also may create another hazard. That's something else to kind of look at there as well. The other hazard may be, instead of a trip hazard, it actually may be simply of overheating of the power cords because they are covered up. The other pictures that you'll see up there is a bunch of clutter. We got cords going everywhere. We got trash sitting in the walking aisle area. So make sure that you do have a good clean walking surface for getting in and out of any type of building or facility. That is crucial to make sure that that is accomplished within your facility. Another example up there of prevention techniques, once again, we do have retractable cord holders. That is one option. The other thing too is some type of securing or putting something directly over the cord. But here's the thing. With these covers, they do allow airflow through the bottom of that particular cover to allow the cords to actually cool down during that process. Here's additional trip hazards that we have put in here. Once again, if you notice one of the very far left up there in the screen, that's actually an example of a mat that was put into a food court area. The mat did lay down to a certain point until the person actually gets right here to the very edge and they're making a turn and actually created a trip hazard. So once again, they needed to go in there and do some cutting, fitting for that mat to fit secure in that particular location. And of course, you've always got the rolled up mats. That's something else that does create a trip hazard. Particularly when the door is open, you have a high wind come through there. Those mats will blow over. When they do blow over, they actually create what? A tripping hazard. So those are things that you can go back and look at within the workplace as well. Prevention techniques, we gave you some ideas right here. Instead of having some type of a cloth mat or a mat of some type in front of the door, The picture on the very far left of your screen right there actually includes metal grates. And what that does, it allows the moisture to actually penetrate directly below that particular grate so it does not create a slippery type of walking surface. We've got the mats as another good example, anti-fatigue mats. Those are examples you can put into the workplace. Another example, if you would notice, at the very bottom of the screen up there, it has a caution sign not only on the outside of the facility as you enter in the building, but also there's one where located on the inside of the facility. And all that is to gain awareness for the people entering and exiting the building. It says, hey, slow down, because once again, you are on a potential slippery type of surface. Those are prevention type solutions. Here's an example of the drainage we was talking about earlier during the presentation. Make sure the water goes away from the building. That's very critical. What you don't want to do is have water going directly into your main entry or into any type of an exit door or an entrance door where people have to enter or exit out of that particular location. Behavioral factors contribute also to slip, trips, and falls. In other words, poor housekeeping. You've got to keep things picked up in the workplace. Improper footwear is another example. These are all behavioral factors that do contribute to slip, trips, and falls. Obstructed vision, having things in your hand. You can't see directly in front of you before you take that next step. Taking shortcuts. Once again, instead of staying on the sidewalk, maybe a person ventures off to the very far right or left and actually cuts through the grassed area. And once again, the shortcuts normally lead to what? Some type of an injury or slip, trip, and fall within the workplace. Getting in a hurry is another good example. Rushing. And once again, if you see any hazards, make sure that you do contact the appropriate personnel to make sure those hazards are corrected. Just don't ignore them. If you see water on the floor, put the wet floor signs up so you can actually get someone out there to actually clean up the spill. Or maybe it's something you're able to do. And not paying attention. That is the other part that's contributing factors as far as the behavioral is concerned. People not paying attention where they're walking at. Not only that, but what kind of surface are they walking on that at that given time. Common causes of slip, trips, and fall injuries include, once again, vision impairments, poor judgment. Maybe your depth perception is not like it was before. Maybe you lose your balance. Those are other contributing factors, those type of injuries. The other thing, too, is keeping things that you're carrying directly in front of you and you can't see directly over that particular objects. And the other thing, too, that does cause either a slip, trip, or fall injury is not using handrails when you're going up a flight of stairs, either going up or going down a flight of stairs. That's what the handrails are there for. Something to give you the ability to grasp hold of as a means of support, but also it actually supports you and keeps you from falling to the next lower level. The other part, once again, as far as behavior is concerned, not paying attention, is for those of you that are distracted by the use of your cell phones. Once again, that is a deterrent. If you're walking, you've got to pay 100% attention to walking. If you had to be texting, you're not paying attention to what's directly in front of you. You're so focused in on what's on that particular screen directly in front of you off that phone. Taking shortcuts is another good example. Walkways, clear the pathways, being in a hurry, rushing. Those are all other contributing factors. OSHA does have a standard. It talks about walking and working surfaces. You can actually go into OSHA.gov, 29 CFR 1910.22. That's actually the housekeeping standard that OSHA has come up with. And basically it states this. This is real simple to remember. Good housekeeping includes keeping things picked up, wiping up spills, and cleaning up. The standard also requires that all places of employment, passageways, storage rooms, service rooms shall be kept clean and orderly and in a sanitary condition at all times. That's the OSHA standard that the federal government has come up with, and this is to protect you as employees in the place of employment. So once again, keep things picked up. Pay attention while you're in the working areas. Here's another good example, maintaining working areas. If you look on the very left of the screen up there, that's a total disaster. That's what you don't want to see out there. Things laying on the floor. Things are not kept up properly. You've got a lot of tripping hazards. You also got a lot of slip hazards in that particular picture. The one on the very far right of your screen up there, once again, we don't want to see anything stored on the floor, because it is in the path of travel, either entering or exiting some type of either a building, storage facility, everywhere it may be. So kind of go back and look at that and make sure you keep your aisleways as clean and tidy as you possibly can. Housekeeping program, once again, needs to have a written program established. How to immediately report your slip, trips, and falls. Once again, if you see a slip, trip, or fall, or a potential for a slip, trip, or fall, who do you contact? Where and how cleaning materials and products are used? Once again, not all cleaning products work good on a floor surface. It can actually make it more slippery and actually make it worse than what it started out to begin with. The other thing, too, is kind of go back and make sure that you're utilizing your wet floor signs or barriers. And make sure the other thing, too, is that all cleaning methods are appropriate for different areas and also for different type of surfaces that a person will be standing on. Prevention tools. Examine employees' slip, trip, and fall injuries. You can actually go in, look at the OSHA injury report. It actually tells you how many slip, trips, or falls has actually occurred within your one particular facility. If you've had any, or maybe you've not had any at all, not really for sure. Another prevention tool also involves the use of a checklist of some type. Checklists, once again, need to be developed for the specific building where the inspection is going to take place. Employee communication, you've got to get the training out there. You've got to let people know, let the employees know, let them become aware, and get them involved as much as you possibly can in the workplace. Examples of where you're going to find injuries as far as employees are concerned. Go to the OSHA logs. Talked about that earlier. Review those for slip, trip, and fall incidents. Review their incident reports. Is there any specific area on that particular location where you're working at that may have very high areas as far as a concern, or maybe there is slip, trips, or fall hazards in that location? Investigate incidents to find and come up with means of prevention that can be implemented to eliminate the slip, trips, or falls within the workplace. Here's an example of a check sheet, okay, or a checklist, whichever you want to call it. But one of the things that does work very well is take pictures. Wherever the hazard is, take a picture. You'll have that as a reference. And once again, you can make contact with whoever's responsible for maintaining the outside of the facility or even the inside of the facility. And once again, work with them and see if the hazard can be either repaired, replaced. If it cannot be either one of those, you may have to put some type of caution tape up around there, put some type of barriers up around there until it can actually be addressed or corrected at that time. Employee communication. Once again, all employees are at risk and should be trained to recognize slip, trips, and falls. It really does not leave anybody out, folks. This is something that affects every one of us who are employees in a place of employment. Get the employees involved. Let them come up with some type of development implementation of prevention strategies. They're out there doing the work. They know the hazards. They know where their hazards are located at. Let them get those employees involved as much as you possibly can. Let's talk about your daily personal safety. We've talked about some of these as we've been going through the training. The first one is make sure you always use handrails when walking up down a flight of stairs. If you do need to carry load, take an elevator. Ask for assistance. There's nothing wrong with asking for assistance. If you need help, have someone help you if you can find someone that can assist you in whatever issue that you may be having. Do not walk distracted. Put the phones, put the food, put the drinks down, okay? You've got to see what's directly in front or in back of you or even to the side of you. You've got to do the 360. You've got to pay attention out there when you're walking. Once again, if you see a slip, trip, or fall hazard, report it immediately. And the other thing, too, is as far as personal safety is concerned, I know everybody likes to have a good cup of coffee, some type of maybe a beverage or something like that. Put a lid on it, please. That way it does not prevent any type of spills. You don't want spills in the workplace. And another thing, too, is a lot of times people spills or drinks, and they don't even realize what has happened because they may not be focusing on that particular job task. Let's look at your footwear that you may be wearing out there in the workplace. Find footwear that has, once again, a slip-resistant type of that has slip-resistant type and also oil-resistant type of soles to the footwear that you may be wearing. Select a shoe with circular grip outsoles. Space in between the grip tread should be at least 2 millimeters for maximum safety. And the other thing too is you may have to use an insole as an extra support or even cushion. Shoes showing signs of damage or even worn tread likely to be replaced. In other words, you may be able to wear your footwear for 6 months, a year, 2 years. It really comes down to this. Every individual's wear their shoes or footwear totally different. Some people wear their footwear out very quickly. But here's one of the things I want y'all to remember is even with a good pair of rubber-soled bottom footwear that has tread to it or even slip-resistant, that once that material has started to worn away, it is just as slippery as if it was a leather-soled pair of shoes that a person may be wearing. Because what you've essentially done is you've taken the rubber on the bottom of the footwear and you've lost all of its gripability, and also you've basically eliminated the tread from that particular footwear. Here's an example. We put a picture in here for you all to kind of look at these different things. Look at the tread. Make sure there's tread everywhere, not just in certain areas. The whole shoe should actually have tread on the very bottom. Once again, some type of rubber, natural type of rubber is what we want to look for there. The deep grooves, the tread not worn out. Make sure it has some type of a flat heel. And once again, the most important thing to remember about any type of footwear is make sure it does fit your foot properly. You may have to add insoles. We talked about that earlier. But the other thing, too, to kind of look at with footwear is think about how many hours you virtually stand on a hard surface. Concrete's a good example in the workplace. Not only that, but you think about how many hours you're standing in that pair of footwear. Then figure out how many hours you do that for a full year. It's pretty astronomical. And here's the thing. Find footwear that has good absorption and good cushion and good gripability. That's the main thing to look for, and a good arch support within the footwear that you do select. And like I said, depends on how fast a person wears that footwear out. And the other thing too is, that's pretty important, is put the phones down, folks. That's the simplest way to remember this. You've got to be paying attention when you're walking. If you are not paying attention, it does create areas where you may have a trip hazard. You may be stepping in something that may be wet or slippery. And the other thing too is you may just step right off somewhere and drop to a lower level. That's what they consider as a fall. Stay off your phone. Ask yourself if basically that particular phone call or text message can wait. Or better than that, just stop what you're doing. Take the message, take the text or the call, and then once again, when you're finished, you can proceed walking in the direction of your path of travel. Don't walk and talk and text while using electronic devices. We talked about moving off to the side of the walkway area. Never cross or walk in the street when you use an electronic device because you're not paying attention, and keep track of your surroundings. Very important. And do not walk with electronic devices in your ears. Here's the thing about electronic devices. There's all kinds of the earbuds, things like that a person can utilize. There's the big ear muffs that a lot of people may wear out there as well. But here's what I'm getting at. If you cannot hear the cars, that can actually make it a more dangerous situation for you if you have any electronic devices in your ears. So you've really got to take the time to make sure that you are safe on any type of walking or working surface that you may be standing on. Some basic takeaways include, go back and look at the surface types that your particular facility has. Is it concrete? Is it some type of maybe loose gravel? Is it some type of maybe carpeting? Some type of material right there. Look at the surfaces. Also on top of that, look at your outdoor hazards that you may encounter. Look at your sidewalks. That's a good example. Look at your entry doors, getting in and out of the facility that you do work in. Keeping things picked up. Go back and look at your housekeeping issues. If you have a lot of clutter on the floor, get that clutter cleaned up as best you possibly can. Because here's the thing. If it's directly in front of you, you don't want to be stepping over it. You want to be able to walk directly in the path of your travel. Put your signs up, folks. That's where the signage comes into place. Your slip, trips, and falls signage works very well. Your footwear. Go back and look at the footwear that you're currently wearing. Is it some type of slip-resistant footwear? Not only that, but does it have good grip or traction to it? And the other thing too is with a takeaway, it's very important, is put the phones down. Texting and walking hazards do exist out there. And here's the thing. If you're not paying 100% attention to walking and you have some type of electronic device that you're more focused in on, you have no idea what you have no idea what that last step may actually be. Is he going to have you step out in front of a vehicle? Is he going to have you step off the very edge of maybe a sidewalk? Or better than that, maybe step off the edge of some type of a working surface that may be at an elevated type of a level. So that's why it's very important to pay attention to where you're walking at and try to avoid the slips, trips, and falls within your work environment. We got some questions that people always ask us. These are the most common ones that we do run across out there. Is the employer required to provide the employee slip-resistant footwear? And the answer to that is no, they're not. That is something that the employee will basically have to provide for themselves. There's a lot of industry out there that's one of the stipulations when you go to work for that particular company, that they do require you to have slip-resistant footwear. So that's something to kind of go back and look at. How do I report a slip, trip, and fall injury here at Oklahoma State University? Number one is contact Environmental Health and Safety. We can be contacted directly either through our webpage, which is ehs.okstate.edu. You can send it in anonymously. You can take a picture. That's one thing that we do ask, send a picture to that particular location as well. And we'll get someone out there to try and figure out what this hazard is. Is it a slip? Is it a trip? Or is it a fall concern? You can also make that noted when you send that information directly into the EHS department as well. Who's responsible for clearing ice, snow from around my building entrances? Well, it comes back to a couple of people here at Oklahoma State University. The first group is going to be the custodial staff. They take care of around the outer edges of the door opening or the door areas before you enter into a location. And the other thing too is the grounds department or the landscape services department. They actually do a lot of the cleaning of the sidewalks, the roads, the parking lots, things of that nature. Coworker falls and is unable to move. How do I seek assistance for them? The very first thing is you want to remember this is leave the person in the position that you find them. You don't want to try and pick them up. You don't want to try to straighten them up in any given way because you have no idea what that slip, trip, or fall actually did to their body. Call 911. That's going to be your best option as far as getting assistance out there in a short period of time. But here's the thing. When you call 911, one of the things that I want everybody to remember is you've got to let the dispatch know your exact location and what kind of injury do we have. Is it a medical matter? Is it a police matter? Is it a fire matter? Okay, you've got to let them know what the incident is, and most important is where are you located at. That is critical. We go on to the next slide. These are some of the programs and services that OSU EHS department does provide to the Oklahoma State University campus. Once again, if you look there, different type of areas we do specialize in. We've got folks that specialize in fire protection. We've got life safety, emergency preparedness. We got environmental compliance and laboratory safety. We got occupational safety. We also got occupational health and medical surveillance. That all comes through our department. Material management, industrial hygiene, chemical hygiene, and of course safety training are all the programs that Oklahoma State Environmental Health and Safety Department does offer. I would like to thank everybody for coming and zooming in on this particular presentation. If you have any questions or any concerns, give me a call at 405-744-7241. You can also email us at ehs@okstate.edu. I do thank everybody for allowing us to do this presentation today. And everybody, please have a safe and wonderful week coming up. And I do thank you all for attending.